a fight to the death, mano a mano, man to man, just you and me and my gods!
Griffith is a man of no definitions. Whenever I try to put a label or a descriptor on him so that I'm able to make comparisons or evaluations, his goals, his presence, and personality are never quite made definitively clear. There are moments where he seems carefree and kind, while in a heartbeat can bring out a ruthless, frightful persona by just glaring at someone. Defining his swings in attitude is similar to that of a psychopath, a personality disorder where, on an outwardly perspective, one may seem trustworthy or even charismatic, but those behaviors are merely fabricated, mimicking qualities they don't really hold, mainly earnest empathy. They may genuinely seem well-tuned or cunning, all while knowingly manipulating others for their own gain. Obscured morality is justifying or rationalizing of death and sacrifice in order to grant his dreams, so that one day there may be a utopia that governs all. Foremost, countless deaths had to ensue. Are the rewards really ever worth the risks? Morality becomes mitigated through ambition. Means to the end are all that matters. The process is inevitable, like fate, like causality. Griffith has moments where he shows a genuine empathy, but then later disregards it as if it were never there, feeling sympathy for a death of a boy, for his comrades during battle. And then, oppositely, during other moments, he uses the very same comrades to climb the ladder to his goals. Griffith, well, maybe not noticeably at first, was always like this, and even outright asks questions regarding what does good and evil really mean or matter. In an instance where he was talking to Guts, he proclaims his thinking about this and says, "It is evident that there exist great beings beyond human knowledge. I would say it could be something more like a god," when Guts responds with, "More like a demon," which to Griffith boldly replies with, "Who knows, is there a difference?" His ambitions don't regard matters in relation to good or bad. All that matters are that they become fulfilled. Far before the eclipse even took place, Griffith knowingly asks Guts if he resents him for the way he is. He asks Guts, "Do you think me of a dreadful man? I had you take such a part in my affairs. While never getting my own hands dirty, I left the most dangerous and difficult tasks to you alone. Do you then not resent me?" I like to think that Griffith does care, and he shows honest concern about what Guts may think of him. But whether he got his answer is irrelevant. He may have been moved by Guts or by the turn of events that are revolved around friendship and trust, but in the end, it was all a stepping stone. Griffith isn't stupid. He foreshadows many events that are eventual, that he is certain will and do happen. When speaking with Charlotte, Griffith even says, "While many can pursue their dreams in solitude, other dreams are like great storms blowing hundreds, even thousands of dreams apart in their wake." He knows that there will be sacrifice and altercations with his ambitions, but it doesn't stop him. When you're so ambitious with your goal, you really can't have anything stopping you or slowing you down. You need to cut ties and step on the weak to climb the metaphorical ladder. But doing so on the very same comrades that aided you to get there in the first place is taking things to the extreme, almost contrasting the behavior he had before the eclipse took place. Shocking when first witnessed, but came to no surprise if we looked at his past behavior relating to his dreams. It's hard to discern whether Griffith's discussions with Guts can be taken seriously when he says, "You, out of all the thousands of comrades and tens of thousands of enemies, only you, and you alone, obscured the vision of my dream." Optimistically, we would hope that Griffith already saw Guts in that sort of light, as is equal. But unfortunately, as Griffith continues his speech with Charlotte, he makes spiteful statements that can be indirectly related to Guts when he says, "Some see nothing more than life and death. They are dead, for they have no dream." I'm not saying that Guts and Griffith's relationship was formed from deception or lies. It's not quite so black and white. Surely there were moments of genuine bonding and trust that at times Griffith does show he cares for others and their values, and very much so towards Guts initially, but other times he entirely contradicts himself, for example in the way he views others. Griffith himself said a friend should defend their dreams even against him. Of course, when Guts did just that and tried to leave the Band of the Hawks, he intervenes and claims that Guts belongs to him, and if he can't have him, then no one can. The word choice chosen asserts that Guts to Griffith was an object rather than a person. He says, if he will not be mine, his life is forfeit. Well, he does have moments of seemingly sincere camaraderie with Guts. It was never enough to truly obscure his vision of his dream. I doubt anything would. Guts winning the duel and leaving Griffith behind left him devastated, but maybe not in the way you would think. Griffith is shown to view everything and everyone as tools. He states numerous times that he will obtain his kingdom and that Guts must fight for him because he belongs to him, seeing people as resources, cogs turning the gears of his impending accomplishments to advance his process, to be one step closer to his end goal. This isn't just how he sees other people, but it's also how he sees himself as well. Prostituting his own body to fund the Band of the Hawks, his body meant nothing if it means getting closer to his goals. Ideologies like these are dangerous to say the least. In the end, it was made insignificant if his relationship with Guts was sincere, if the old Band of the Hawks was his first initial mercenary group, if the princess was his. What matters is whether it aided him. Any little emotion he may have felt along the way never would be enough to truly rival his dream. And although stating that Guts did obscure his dream, we all saw how that panned out. The philosophy behind ambition being good or bad is a conversation all on its own. Well, temporary or fractional ambition can be observed as healthy. That most certainly doesn't apply in Griffith's case. Ambition is a perpetuating cycle and one that rarely gets fulfilled without upping the ante. Aristotle claims that it's possible to fail in many ways, but it's possible to succeed in only one way. By the same exact measure, man can be bad in many ways, but good only in one. Griffith's dreams were absolute from the moment we first saw him. There is no end to his cycle of ruling, and this is most evident before the eclipse takes place, where Griffith tells Guts about the Bechlet, the egg of the king, and how it prophesies that he who possesses it shall conquer the world in exchange for his flesh and blood. In politics, Aristotle claims that man's ambitions and their greed are among the most profound cases of deliberate acts of injustice, and that their ambitions are rarely pure, in that true ambition calls for sacrifice. Usually the prize is never worth the sacrifice, but the temptation to stop is never fulfilled. True ambition is a harmful, continuous cycle. Griffith is a fascinating character. Like how I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, he has traits that contrast each other, seeming like a different person in different instances. He can be kind and carefree, while ruthless in a moment's notice. This bipolar idea, that sort of divergence of the type of person Griffith is remarkably shown when Griffith becomes Femto. His conflicting personalities and traits, all while remaining the same person, is simply brilliant. When it comes down to it, when Griffith was comparing gods to demons and whether they might be the same thing, he was possibly talking about himself and the menace he knows is inside him. A true wolf in sheep's clothing. Fast forward a little bit and Griffith claims ownership of his newly conquered kingdom, Falconia, after beating Ganishka in the enormous battle that led to the fusing of the physical and astral realms. Griffith will want to be the supreme ruler of the kingdom and perhaps eventually even the world, just like the Behelit prophesied. His ambitions will be his downfall. The very motivating factor of climbing to the top will be this thing that leads him to the eventual collapse down to the bottom. How this happens is possibly at the hands of those who he betrayed and walked on to get there, those like Guts. Griffith's kingdom, built by his ambition, was fueled with betrayal and death. Griffith had to step on many bodies to get to where he was now. So who's to say that Falconia doesn't have an underlining hellish future awaiting, like a gathering place of death? The forthcoming of Falconia is similar to Griffith himself, mysterious in its inauguration, what it holds for the future. Just like Griffith, he, along with his kingdom, can bring either affluence and prosperity or utter despair. The deciding factor lies with Guts. Perhaps after Casca returns, and upon realizing Falconia's greatness and flourishing serenity, Guts will reevaluate his decision of revenge. Unlikely, because Guts has seldom ever, even remotely, led up to the idea of killing Griffith. The kind of uncontrollable rage that seems to manifest in himself at the very sight of Griffith says more than enough. There will unquestionably be a final confrontation. The main question is whether or not it is virtuous for the sake of everyone else. Falconia can be a utopia, a safe haven for all, but knowing Griffith and the actions he's made in the past, it could at the very same token be an ultimate sacrifice, where everyone is congregated to their demise. The decision lies with Guts now. What will he do from here on out? Griffith always took everything he wanted. He was a ruler, a leader. The only thing that was out of reach for him now was Guts. Guts will be the deciding factor in the end, and presumably the person who will take Griffith's tainted desire to rule supreme and put an end to his ambitions.